Hey guys, it's Nicole and welcome back to another video. And today's video I'm really excited to share with you, and I'm also a little nervous. I wanted to do a video where I talk to you guys about my reading journey and how I got into reading and how my reading has changed throughout the years. I also wanted to make this a tag kind of video because I would really like to ask other booktubers how they got into reading. I love to do this, especially when I discover that a person has a shared interest to me. I think it's a really great way to build connections with others, and that's why I decided to make this a tag video. Having said that, this isn't going to be like a normal tag video. I didn't want to have a strict list of questions that you had to answer every single one of them. Everyone's journey is so different and so unique, and I didn't want my questions to limit someone else's answers, so this is just more of a discussion video. I wouldn't strongly identify myself as a child reader. For me as a kid, reading was actually a huge task and it was something really intimidating. It took me a very long time to learn how to read and to get good at it, and there is a reason for that, and there is something quite significant about myself that I haven't had a chance to share on my channel. I wanted to do that through this video, and that is I'm actually hard of hearing. I have pretty poor hearing. I am a little bit deaf in my right ear, and then I'm pretty significantly deaf in my left ear, and I do also wear a hearing aid. Family and I didn't become aware of my hearing loss until I was 6 years old. I was halfway through my first year of school and the school nurse suspected something, and she sent me home and told my parents to go and get some tests done, which we did, and they all confirmed that I did have hearing loss. Up until that point, my parents did suspect that I might have had a learning disability because it was obvious that I wasn't learning at the same rate that the other kids were learning at. Actually, I was learning and developing so slowly that my younger brother, who is 2.5 years younger than me, he learned to talk a lot faster than I did, and he could talk a lot better than I did. So my parents were suspicious, but they just didn't really know what was going on. It's just had a huge impact on my childhood. I had to repeat my first year of school, so I actually didn't finish high school until I was 19 and a half. I had to get a lot of extra help. I was always getting help from teachers' aid, through extra classes. I had to do speech therapy as a kid because I couldn't pronounce a word. Reading and English, just something that wasn't fun for me to do, and something I just didn't enjoy because growing up, every time I read, it was me being assessed and whether my pronunciation was good. I did have a few favorite books, and the first lot of favorite books I had were the Tashi books. I don't know if you would have heard of this series if you don't live in Australia, but it's a really quite popular children's series, and the editions I had were tiny books. It just wasn't intimidating for me. There were also pictures, and I just really enjoyed the story. It's a fantasy story that follows this boy called Tashi and all these like crazy adventures that he goes on. There's a lot of like mythical creatures that he runs into, and it's kind of cheeky, and yeah, I just remember really enjoying it. The other series of books I really enjoyed were the Rainbow Fairies. I think there are still books being published in that series. There's probably like 1,000 books in the series at this point, but they were really great. They were also really short books and not intimidating. I also really enjoyed all the Eden Bladden books, particularly The Magic Faraway Tree was my favorite, and also The Adventures of Pip. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare is actually the book I consider to have transformed me into a reader. That book was recommended to me by my school librarian. We had a like library class every now and then in school, and you would literally spend an entire period of class just reading, and I started reading City of Bones in that class. And on my way home from school that day, I went and brought myself a copy from my local bookshop, and I read it in one night. It was the first book where reading didn't really feel like a task for me. It just gave me so much joy. From there, after City of Bones, I read literally every YA fantasy I could get my hands on. I've read a lot of the popular ones. I've read Vampire Academy. I read the Blue Blood series. I read the Hush Hush. I read the Fallen series. I was also really obsessed with Amanda Hocking at one point. There's just so many series that I read because of City of Bones, and City of Bones is definitely the book that made me into a reader. I know if I read City of Bones for the first time today, because I have reread it in the years since, and it's definitely a flawed series. I definitely see why people read it now and don't enjoy it and critique it so much. It was a introduction for me for YA fantasy. I have so much nostalgia for that series and just so much appreciation because it really just brought me into this world of books. I just love how I look at City of Bones and I look at that series, and it literally transports me back in time, literally where I was when I first finished it, and I'm 13 years old again, and it's just a really magical feeling. You can't say every book does that for you. The Immortal Instrument series is actually also how I discovered Booktube. I was watching book trailers, I think, because Cassandra Clare used to always come out with book trailers for her books. It was for the City of Heavenly Fire book trailer I was watching, which is the final book in the Immortal Instrument series, and a video was recommended to me, and it was a collaboration video with Kat from Cattastic and Christine from Polar Bananas Books, and they had this collab video where they were trying to theorize what was going to happen in City of Heavenly Fire. That's how I got into Booktube. So I watched that video and then I found all their other videos, and yeah, I was hooked. When it comes to genres of books, I've always adored fantasy, like even as a kid and even as a teen and even now as an adult. Fantasy has always been, and I think always will be, my number one. I really adore how creative authors can be with their worlds, and I really enjoy adventure stories. When I was about 15, I definitely went through a phase where I was obsessed with YA contemporaries, because at that age I was really looking forward to being 17 or 18 myself and getting into a relationship for the first time, and that's why I loved reading those kind of books. I had a Kindle when I was in year 9, and a lot of those books were from Kindle buys, and yeah, it's really funny looking through all my old Kindle books. I've never read any of those books. My taste has changed so much. I also haven't read an ebook in like years. I tried a couple of months ago. I borrowed an ebook out from my library and I just couldn't do it. Yeah, now I just have to read physical. I do listen to audiobooks, but I definitely prefer just physical reading. I also love annotating it and writing my thoughts. There's nothing more like the classic feeling of having that book in your hand, you know? Audiobooks has also been an experience for me. I remember when people first started mentioning audiobooks, and I was definitely like really hesitant to get into them. Now I can't live without audiobooks. I can't read as much as I do without audiobooks. I will say there are some audiobooks I really struggle to listen to with my hearing, like the frequency where my hearing loss is. I just can't listen to some audiobooks because I literally can't hear them. So an example is Red Sister. I really struggled with that one. As soon as I got into reading at age 13, so right after I read City of Bones, I decided I wanted to collect every book I ever read. My book collection has been one that's been building up over the years, and I just love it. I don't have a whole lot from my childhood, so it just means a lot to me that I do have these books and these memories. I won't unhold them. In most books I can remember like exactly where I brought them. I can remember when I read them, who I read them with, if I read them with anyone. I just really love them, and I really love having that collection. I love when you've read a book and you finished it and you put it on your shelves, and it's just like a little trophy and a little memory that you have displayed, and I just love that. The last thing I want to talk about is DNFing books. So DNFing has been an interesting experience for me. I really struggle with DNFing. I'm someone who really likes to complete things. I just hate not being committed. Like, I just feel like I'm doing something wrong by not completing a book or a series. I don't feel that bad about series now. Like, if I don't like it, then I just won't continue. But with books, I definitely still read the entire thing. I've only ever DNF'd 2 books, and the first one is Breaking Dawn, the last book in the Twilight series, and the other book I did not finish was Finale, which is the final book in the Hush Hush series. I think I don't also like to DNF books because it's the writer in me trying to figure out what I don't like. I like how when you are reading a book that you dislike, it does bring out the critical side of you, and you can really work out what you like and what you don't like. There's something about it that makes me keep reading. That might just be an excuse. Who knows? That is it for this video. Down below I have a bunch of dot points and questions, and they are there to help you get ideas for your own video. I really hope you guys do this. I'm going to go nuts on Twitter and tag a bunch of people. I would really love to hear how you guys got started with your reading journey. And I was trying to have a look when I did this to see if people had made a tag like this. I couldn't see a reading journey tag, so if there is one out there, please let me know and I will definitely have it linked in the description. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you're enjoying whatever you're currently reading, and I will see you next time. Bye!